Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Now I know what you're thinking, another video about Trump and Biden? Didn't we settle this whole thing back in 2020? Well, to quote the great American philosopher DJ Khaled, another one. Look, the truth is, we love a good presidential showdown in this country. It's like our national pastime, right up there with baseball and pretending we understand the Electoral College. And let's be honest, these two presidents, they couldn't be more different if one of them was a sentient spray tan, and the other a bowl of lukewarm tapioca pudding. We're talking night and day, fire and ice. Twitter rants and, well, whatever the opposite of a Twitter rant is. A strongly worded letter to the editor of the Wall Street Journal, perhaps? But here at Channel Name, we're not about to shy away from a little presidential pugilism. We're diving headfirst into the ring to compare the Trump administration and the Biden administration. Who ran a tighter ship? Whose policies actually held water? And just to spice things up, who wore it better? Just kidding. Mostly. First up, let's talk about Donald J. Trump, a man who needs no introduction, mostly because he wouldn't let anyone else get a word in edgewise for 4 years. Now love him or hate him, and let's be honest, those seem to be the only two options available. You have to admit the man knew how to put on a show. Every day felt like a season finale of The Apprentice White House edition. And his presidency? Well, it was certainly eventful, like a roller coaster ride designed by someone who'd only vaguely heard how roller coasters work. You've got your tax cuts, mostly benefiting the wealthy, like a reverse Robin Hood situation, except instead of giving to the poor, he was tweeting insults at them. Then there was the trade war with China, which, much like a trade war with a beehive, mostly just resulted in everyone getting stung. And who could forget the wall? Oh, the wall. The great beautiful, definitely not a metaphor for xenophobia wall. Spoiler alert, Mexico didn't pay for it. And then of course there was the small matter of a global pandemic. Now I'm not saying Trump's response to COVID-19 was perfect, but it did involve suggesting we inject bleach, which, if you think about it, is a pretty bold move for a man whose hair seemed to be held together by the fragile balance of the cosmos. But hey, it wasn't all bad. He did move the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, which, depending on your political persuasion, was either a stroke of genius, or like throwing a lit match into a fireworks factory. And he appointed not one but two conservative justices to the Supreme Court, which again, depending on your perspective, was either a victory for religious freedom, or the harbinger of the robot apocalypse. Look, there's no denying that Trump's presidency was something. Whether that something was good, bad, or somewhere in between is a question best left to historians, therapists, and perhaps exorcists. But one thing's for sure, it was never boring. And now, for the man who promised to restore normalcy to American politics, Joe Biden. You know, Sleepy Joe, Amtrak Joe, the guy who once threatened to beat up a constituent in a parking lot Joe. Wait, that last one might just be me misremembering things. Anyway, Biden campaigned on a platform of unity, competence, and not tweeting from the toilet at 3 a.m. And to be fair, he's mostly delivered on those promises. Mostly. The man does love his ice cream though. Biden's first few months in office were dominated by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which thankfully he didn't try to cure with fish tank cleaner. He ramped up vaccine distribution, passed a massive stimulus package, and generally tried to project an air of calm competence, which, after 4 years of Trump, was about as jarring as suddenly switching from death metal to whale sounds. He also rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement because, you know, the planet's on fire and all, and he reversed a bunch of other Trump-era policies like they were bad decisions made after a particularly rough night of tequila shots, which, knowing Trump, they very well may have been. But Biden's presidency hasn't been without its challenges. The withdrawal from Afghanistan was, to put it mildly, messy. The economy is still recovering from the pandemic, and inflation is higher than Snoop Dogg at a Willie Nelson concert, and let's not even get started on the whole trying to shove a massive infrastructure bill through a Congress more divided than a Thanksgiving dinner with your racist uncle thing. So, is Biden the savior America needed after the dumpster fire that was the Trump administration? Or is he just another out-of-touch politician who's better at giving speeches than actually getting things done? The jury's still out, but hey, at least he hasn't live-tweeted the nuclear launch codes yet. So there's that. So who ran the better government? Honestly, it's way too early to tell. It's like trying to judge a pie-eating contest when one contestant just finished inhaling a dozen apple pies while the other is still politely nibbling on their first blueberry. Was Trump a chaotic force of nature who upended the established order for better or worse? Absolutely. Is Biden trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again while also dealing with a global pandemic, a divided Congress, and probably a spam folder full of angry emails from Vladimir Putin? You betcha. Ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide who we think did a better job, but one thing's for sure, it's been a wild ride.